Have you heard about this book called The Tale of Two Cities? And was written by Charles Dickens. Words have great power. And the way some people can explain is mesmerizing. They say in life there are no black and no white, there are only shades of grey. Looking for perfection will always lead to pain. But if you can look at what is possible, you'll always see progress. I remember when I read this book, A Tale of Two Cities, it was quite fat. And the beginning lines took my breath away. And the first few paragraphs shows the genius of that guy. The book begins with these statements. It was the best of times. Second sentence, it was the worst of times. What is a great public speaking? What is the great public speech? When I can say some things in the beginning, which gets my attention, which also gets the entire audience's attention. It means they are hooked onto and they want to listen or they want to read for a little more while. Now that is a good speech. So when Charles Dickens writes right in the beginning, it was the best of times. And then the second statement is, it was the worst of times. You start wondering, what is he up to? What is he going to write? What was good about those times? What was the worst about those times? And a good author makes you mirror everything with your life. So even if Shakespeare writes about King Lear, the way he writes, I should be able to feel a fight within me about right and wrong. So to me, one of the greatest authors ever born was Charles Dickens. And when he was asked, what makes you write so well? He just says, it's my ability to give attention to whatever I am at. So he says, if I am drinking coffee, I am giving complete attention to coffee. And if I am sitting in a cafe, I am observing everything which is happening in the cafe and giving attention to my coffee. It is my ability to give attention which makes me a good author. Now, some of you may not be interested in literature, but you might be interested in glamour. Have you heard of the name of this lady called Nicole Faria? Okay, she's an Indian. Folks in Bangalore, she's from Bangalore. And she was the second runners-up in the Miss Beauty contest, which means she won the Miss Earth title. She was asked, you are so beautiful, so talented, and you're also very accomplished in life, which means you do brilliantly well in adventure sports, you do brilliantly well in academics, you also do brilliantly well in glamour. How is it that you are able to manage so many things and excel in each one of them? Normally you will find if somebody is, let's say, number one in sports, they're not good in studies. Or if somebody is great in studies, they're not able to excel in sports. But Nicole Faria is one of those ladies in our country who excelled in 3 different fields and came in the top in all the 3 fields. And in an interview when she was asked, how do you manage? She said just one word, focus. Whatever I am in, I am completely focused. And when she was asked, what's your message to the youth? She says the youth today is much more talented than ever in the history of humanity. The youth today is much more intelligent than ever in the history of humanity. Unfortunately, the youth today is also more distracted than ever in the history of humanity. Attention, Charles Dickens. Focus, Nicole Faria. Two people from different centuries, but giving us something very simple by which each one of us can do well in life. Simple question. What do we give attention to and what do we stay focused at? What's the difference between these two words, focus and attention? Focus means being involved in one thing. There is one which captures you completely. Attention means being aware and observing everything without any judgments and without any filters. So when a child is attentive in a class, they're listening not only what the teacher is saying, but also the body language of others. And it also understands between what the teacher said and what I understood, there is a gap, and therefore I need to ask the teacher, what did the teacher mean by this? Not only the child understands what is spoken, but also what was not spoken, what is between the lines. Now that is attention. Focus and attention. Let me take you on a small journey. How many of you have gone to the Taj Mahal? Agra, not the hotel. Now imagine we go to Taj on a moonlit night. Now there are different kinds of people who will be there in the audience in front of Taj. Let's say there is an architect like Prashant and Satish. When they look at the Taj, what are their thoughts? Would they say, if only I had this project? Or their thought can be, एक तो क्लाइंट ऐसा मिलना चाहिए जिसके पास कोई बजट ही ना हो. मतलब फ्रीडम ऑफ क्रिएटिविटी. Let's say in front of the Taj, there is a guy who does business of LED lights. What will be his thoughts? Anyone? ताज के ऊपर एलईडी का लाइट लगाएगा तो मजा आएगा ना. फिर वो जो इंडिया का चंद्रयान 2 गया है वहां से भी दिखेगा. बट द वे दे लुक एट इट differs from person to person. Similarly, everybody goes through life, but the way we look through it differs from person to person. Session number 1, when there is a challenge in front of us, how does a David Goggin look at his life? How does he look at his life? When he is not educated and he has some habits, how does he look at life? To him, what is the comfort zone? Like Muhammad Ali said, when he was asked, how many sit-ups do you do? Muhammad Ali's answer was, I count my sit-ups after it starts paining. Now some of us, when we do sit-ups, in anticipating pain, we stop. दुखना नहीं चाहिए यार. It's a simple exercise called sit-ups. But the way we look at it actually defines who we are. In other words, as we live our life, what are we attentive to? What do we focus on? I'm attentive to opportunities. I also know 5 things which are going wrong. But because I am attentive to one opportunity between the five failures, I choose to now focus only on that opportunity and take my life ahead. On the other hand, it is also possible five things are going right in life, one thing is not okay. I am attentive to all, but I may be focused only on that which is not going okay, hence complain and blame and believe that my life is not good at all. What we give attention to and what we focus on will actually define our life. Meditation is an extraordinary tool which helps us to be attentive to the right things in life, and it also helps us to focus on the right things of life. For some time, forget about the spiritual aspect of meditation. For some time, forget on 10 other level 4, level 5, level 6 benefits of meditation. For some time, let's only focus on a day-to-day living. For a child who's as young as 13, 14, 15, 16, to another young person who is of Mohan's age, 55, 60, Prashant said, no? What are the small daily benefits of meditation and how easy it is for us to meditate? Meditation will help you to perform well. Meditation will help you to master your emotions. Meditation will help you to be attentive so that you have to study for less time but produce better results. Now, which student in the world does not want this? So, here are some very simple ground rules for meditation. Point number one, anybody in the world can meditate. It does not require special diksha. It does not require the grace of a guru. It does not require a profound, well-learned, highly evolved teacher. The meditation that we are talking about can be done by anybody effortlessly. All that you need is a desire to meditate and about, from the children's perspective, 10 minutes every day. From adults' perspective, 20 minutes every day. And I believe everybody has this time. If any one of us believes that because we are busy we don't meditate, you don't have awareness and your focus is probably on the wrong things. Meditation begins with something as simple as observing your breathing. There are many schools of meditation which teaches only one thing, and that is how to breathe. There are no chantings over there, there are no mantras there, there is no visualization there, there is no chakras over there, nothing. There is only breathing. And I believe all of you breathe. Right or wrong? Karke dekho? Aa raha hai? Okay, good. In the Vedas they are written, unless you breathe right, you cannot live right. Unless you breathe right, you cannot live right. This session is extremely crucial because nobody ever teaches us how to breathe. We are taught how to speak, we are taught how to eat, we are taught how to run, how to study, how to sing, how to dance, how to cook. But nobody teaches us breathing because we assume वो तो automatic हो रहा है. Why is right breathing important? I'll give you 2 reasons and in turn transfer these 2 reasons to children inside the classroom. Why is right breathing so important? How many of you want to live a long life? We are born with the number of breaths that we are going to take fixed. Which means if I can breathe long, I'm automatically extending my life. Proof. How many of you have a dog, pet dog? This is not a very pet friendly audience. Very less. How does the dog breathe? Show. Something like that. Now don't carry that image of me in your mind ever. So I don't want anybody to say Naren once more. And what is the life of a dog? 10, 12, 14, 15. When you are scared, how do you breathe? Now some of you may say, Dar mujhe malum nahi hai. But imagine, when you are scared, how do you breathe? And what happens to your body when you are scared? Do you... बहुत डर लग रहा है. Can you do that? Or will the body shrink? And when it shrinks, what happens? The lungs don't have space. When I do like this, the lungs have space. When I do like this, the lungs don't have space. And my breathing becomes fast. Go and watch any horror movie and see the special effects. Go into Millen Studio and watch a horror movie there. You'll believe somebody is breathing next to you. Which means, when I am having negative emotions, what am I doing to myself? I'm dying a little faster. That is why breathing. You and me cannot be masters of our emotions right now like this. Not possible. Some of you can remain angry for days. Some of you are angry for a few lives. Puri zindagi. Have you ever made that statement? But what is happening to you? You are damaging yourself. I say something to you, I make you angry, I move on. I don't even remember that I was the cause of your anger. You remember it for a long time and you hurt yourself for a longer time. Now tell me, if I am angry or if I am scared, can I focus on my studies? Can I? If I am angry or if I am sad, can I enjoy anything in my life? Which means if I want to live a good life, I need to be a master of my emotions. But I don't know how to master my emotions. But what I can do is master my breathing. It's easy for me to change the pattern of my breathing. All of you breathe fast with me. Stop. And now stretch your body a little and breathe deep. How much time did it take to change your breathing pattern? Hours, minutes, seconds. Now the moment you breathe deep, you are training your mind away from negative things of life towards the positives of life. A negative thought cannot stay here when you know how to breathe deep. A negative emotion cannot stay here if you know how to breathe deep. And that is why many processes of meditation in the world has only one factor, and that is breathing. If I know how to breathe well, I will know how to live well. Now, what is to be done when it comes to deep breathing? It's very simple. Our lungs have three lobes: the lower lobe, the middle lobe, and the upper lobe. The way most of us breathe, we use only the lower lobe. For many of us, our breathing is like this. We're breathing so fast. Because only the lower is being used, the middle and the upper is not being used, we are an open invitation to negative thoughts and negative emotions. Now, the moment we can train ourselves to breathe deep, people won't be able to hurt us effortlessly. Nobody can make us angry by what they say. You will be a person of composure. Distractions will be long away from you. You will be able to focus on what is right in your life. And therefore, the meditation that we talk about inside the classroom is not about spiritual evolution and moksha. The meditation that we talk inside the classroom is about how to live a good life, how to have good and positive thoughts, how do I have good and positive emotions, how do I stay focused and be attentive to the right things in life so that I live a beautiful life. Now we'll take the children through some processes. And these processes are very, very simple and small processes. For example, the beginning is you ask them to close their eyes and keep their body rock still. And as their body is rock still without moving, can they just pay attention to the thoughts that they are having? Let's do that. Please close your eyes. Body rock still. Which means whatever happens, your body doesn't move. And my sincere request to all, keep breathing. Body rock still doesn't mean you take a deep inhalation and stop. Your breathing will continue, but otherwise body rock still, starting now for 1 minute. And shift your entire attention to your thoughts. 40 seconds over. Beautiful. Thank you. Open your eyes. All of you awake? Somebody didn't have a late night and went off to sleep? Check your neighbor. It's as simple as this. A small determination that whatever happens, it's my priority and I am going to do it every day. From the classroom perspective, we tell them 5 minutes se shuru karo. 5 minutes every day. And however busy a human being is, they can find 5 minutes every day. Second, tell them to define a space. Any space 3 feet by 3 feet where they can sit and where they will sit consistently when it comes to sitting for meditation. The poorest of people in their home will have a 3 feet by 3 feet space where they can sit. The third thing, get your mood right. What does it mean? Now, out of anger, don't come and sit. Out of fear, don't come and sit. Out of irritation, don't come and sit. Let's say the food which was made was not as per your choice. So don't tell your mother, क्या खाना बना है? बैठ रहा हूं मैं meditation के लिए. Then you will only see food in your head. Nothing else will come. And deep breathing chhod do. With every breath, you are only waiting the smell or the fragrance of food. Abhi bhi nahi hai. What nonsense. So don't sit with that. Get your mood right. Which means, think about something which makes you happy. And sit. One of the best things to do is stretch. An angry person cannot stretch. He wants to stretch others. Stretch means relax. All of you, stretch. Don't box anybody. अच्छे से. And those of you who didn't take bath, I'm sorry for the neighbors. My deepest condolences to your neighbor. In a public program, that's what happens. And if you are one of those people who stretched and I'm really sorry for your predicament. So you tell the children, stretch. You know, physical activity makes children happy. And then what makes you happy? Think about anything which makes you glad. Maybe a song. Maybe a friend. Maybe a gift somebody gave to you. Maybe the shoes that you have. The marks that you got. Anything which makes you happy. Thinking about that, now sit down in the seat of silence. And body rock still is very crucial. Children are fidgety by nature. Some adults are even more. You know, from here I can see. You cannot see everybody. I can see from here everybody. That can be a blessing in disguise for you. So as I say, body rock still, somebody does like this. Did body rock still involve scratch yourself? And I also saw some people today, after 10 seconds, body rock still. That is body rock still. Now this is not my fear. My fear is when I saw one person, body rock still, and after 15 seconds, now that is scary. Step number 1, body rock still. Now step number 2, we will practice what we call as controlled breathing. What is controlled breathing? We inhale to a count of 5, inhale to a count of 5, hold on to a count of 5, which means inhale and keep the air inside. Let my lungs get expanded and stay expanded. And then when I exhale to a count of 6. And then the lungs exhaled with no air whatsoever inside stays in that position for a count of 5. So it is 5, 5, 6, 5. What we are doing is, we are training our lungs to breathe deep. So imagine the lungs is like this. Today it only breathes this much. What we are attempting to do is expand it, keep it there, and then contract it, keep it there, expand it, keep it there. There is something called muscle memory. There is something called photographic memory. One of those days we might discuss about different kinds of memories. But the muscles by itself develop a memory. Almost 12 years ago, when we had a sports convention, I attempted to play volleyball, landed on my feet in an awkward angle, and this feet pura mud gaya ye. Hugely painful. It swelled up. And for a few days, therefore, I had to stand on this leg and only take support of this leg. But it happened like that for 4 months. 4 months I had to be like this. So even today, I have to remind myself to stand equally on both feet. Naturally, the weight shifts only to one leg. Now that is the muscle that this leg has developed. Okay, this part needs a little support, it needs a little rest. Don't put too much weight on this. It's not an instruction which is getting passed from here, but the muscles have developed a memory. Similarly, my lungs have a memory. And as per memory, they breathe the way we have been breathing for years. Now, unless we change that memory, we won't be able to expand deeper by default. Which means naturally today we breathe like, if I have to change the natural breathing stage to, then I need to hold it in these two positions for the muscles to start forming a new memory. So what now we are going to do is, I'll ask you to keep your body rock still. We will do that only for 30 seconds. Then I'll ask you to start breathing deep. I will give you the count of 5, then the count of 5, then the count of 6, and then the count of 5. And we'll do only 3 rounds of this. Body rock still. "20 seconds done. I'll give you a countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The moment I say 1, you will take a deep inhalation to my count of 5. And then I'll say hold, and then I'll give you another count of 5. Then I'll say exhale, and I'll give you a count of 6. Now you exhale at the same speed at which you have inhaled, but you exhale a little more. And then I'll say hold for another count of 5, and we'll do it 3 times. So you inhale when I reach 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale gently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last round. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep your eyes closed and begin normal breathing again. Now breathe 10% deeper than your normal breathing. Please open your eyes. Now to give a little variety to breathing, at the same time remaining focused on what we are attempting to do, we will shift our attention to 3 different body parts where observation of breathing can be very beautiful. The first body part where we witness breathing is our nose, the second is our chest, and the third is our belly. Nose is so much about values. इसलिए बोलते हैं ना हमारी नाक कट गई if somebody does something wrong. So when you focus your breathing on your nose, the thoughts that I want you to have is, I will do the right things in life. I will be honest. I will be hardworking. Any other thought that you might have about your character, your attitude, which is beautiful, you will focus only on those thoughts as you witness your thoughts at your nose. So what we are going to do is, you will sit, you will take your hands, let's say left hand on the bottom and the right hand on top. And you place it gently on top of each other. Very gently on top of each other. And let the hand placement be right below your belly button. Just below your belly button. Let your hands be completely relaxed. Now this is a posture which is beautiful for internalizing. It's a beautiful posture for detachment and observation. This is also called as the lotus posture. The way lotus stores in mud but does not get affected negatively by the mud, and it takes everything positive for itself to grow from that very mud. Similarly, what I am telling myself is, irrespective of how my life is, I'm going to get some beauty out of this life and I'm going to create myself. Now, this is what this posture means. And whether you want it or not, when you sit in this posture, your thoughts have to be driven in the right direction. So what you're going to do is, when you sit with your body rock still, you're going to have your body in this posture. After about 30 seconds, I will tell you, take your right hand and just take your index finger and touch your nose. And I want you to stay focused on your breathing at your nose. And after some time, I'll say, tell yourself about the values and the character that you will have, about the right things that you're going to have. Just talk about that. Next stage, I will tell you, take your fingers from there and place it on your heart. And now observe your breathing at your chest level, a gentle rise and fall of your chest as you breathe in and breathe out. Watch when you breathe in and breathe out. Do you feel a gentle rise and fall of your chest? That is the second thing. And the third thing I will tell, take your palm and cover your navel with your palm. When you place your palms on your heart, you're going to tell yourself to feel all the right things in life. I will celebrate more. I will have more joy. I will have gratitude in my life. I will enjoy the ability of giving. I will fill my life with beauty and surprises. Everything which is emotional but positive, you will remind yourself. And when you cover your palms with your navel, you'll only think about goals and ambitions. Now this is called the seat of ambition. That's why the saying is, if you want to do something, kamar kaslo. Signifying this place. In the Hindu mythology, Brahma, creation, is born from the navel of Vishnu. Not in the right context today, but just understand this. This is the seat of your power. That's why in martial arts also, when they make you do who, the who is not coming from here. It is supposed to come from here. If it comes from here, it will be like who. It comes from here, it has to be like who. If it comes from here, it's power. So what we are doing is values, positive emotions, and ambition. Any human being can have this combination. They will excel in life. They will be happy. They will have the right kind of people. They will succeed. Just the combination of these three: right values, right feelings, and right ambition. Let's do the process. Close your eyes. Body rock still. Hands in lotus posture. Left hand below, right on the top. Shoulders relaxed. Your face has a gentle smile. Allow your whole body to relax. Now breathe 20% deeper than your normal breathing. And just keep breathing, regular breathing. You don't have to hold. Now take your right hand, the index finger, touch your nose, and watch your breathing at your nose. Shift your entire alertness to your nose. I am going to live a life of values. I am going to work hard. I live a life that will make me proud. And I live a life where people who love me will also be proud of me. Last one breath, what at your nose. And gently bring your hands down to your heart. And watch the gentle rise and fall of your chest as you breathe in and breathe out. And now tell yourself, I'll fill my life with joy. I'll celebrate all the good things that life has given to me. I will anchor my life on gratitude. Happiness will be my habit. Watch your breathing at your chest for one last time in this process. Now gently bring your hands down to cover your belly button. Watch the gentle rise and fall of your belly as you breathe in and breathe out. %20 deeper breathing. Now tell yourself, I will consistently break my comfort zones. I will set ambitious goals, which has the power to bring the best out of me. No failure on this planet can ever stop me. I will live a life of determination and success. Bring your right hand on top of the left hand again. Keep your eyes closed and visualize along with me. When Buddha was about to die, a disciple went to Buddha and said, "What will happen to us after you leave? Who will be there to guide us? We will become orphans." Buddha smiled at him and replied, "I didn't have anyone to guide me. So you too can live a life with yourself. Guide yourself. And the disciple said, "But there will be darkness all around." Buddha replied, "Apo, Deepo Bhava. Be your own lamp. Here is a process today which will help you to be your own lamp. Visualize that within you there is a lamp, and that lamp is burning beautifully, spreading its light inside you. This lamp has a power, and that power is to destroy anger. Allow that lamp to spread its light in every cell of your body, and therefore remove all the causes of anger that has disturbed you in your life so far. Remove everything that makes you angry. Now place that lamp gently inside your heart. Now see another lamp right at the center of your being, right at the center of your body. This lamp is also glowing beautifully. This lamp has the power to take away greed and unwanted desires. Allow the light from this lamp to travel to every cell of your being. And take away greed and unwanted desires. Place that lamp beautifully in your heart. See another lamp in your heart. This lamp has the capacity to take away all your insecurities. See the lamp growing beautifully. Allow it to spread its light in every cell of your body. And remove all your insecurities. And replace it with faith. See this fourth lamp right at the center of your being. This fourth lamp has the power to take away your illnesses and diseases. This lamp is glowing beautifully. Allow it to spread its warmth and light to every part of your body which has some kind of disease. Remove the disease and replace it with health. And put that lamp in your heart. In the center of your body. See the fifth lamp. And this lamp is a lamp of divine light. The presence of this light means the Creator and His grace walks with you and is present with you. This light is always there for you to use it, access it. In the presence of this light, you are never alone. Believe that as long as this lamp is there with you, you will live a good life. Now gently place this fifth lamp in your heart. Nurture these 5 lamps and you will be your own light. You will know how to deal with your anger, your greed, your insecurities, ill health. And you will be able to fill yourself with gratitude and devotion. So that you can live a life based on values, feel overflowing positive emotions, and stay on the path of achievements. I want you to end the session by saying, visualize your life like a canvas. Now you are painting the canvas of your life. Everything that you do is a stroke on that canvas. Fortunately or unfortunately, sometimes some people will come and they will also paint some strokes on your canvas. Now live with this belief. Live with this belief that you can undo the strokes of any person on the canvas of your life. You can undo the stroke of any person on the canvas of your life. You will not feel helpless. An individual outside will not decide the kind of life you're going to live. You are going to decide the kind of life you're going to live. And this 5-minute process, which can extend into 10 minutes, 15 minutes, is going to help them in a very, very big way.